My name's Mark Johnson. I'm a Superior Court judge in California, a retired Army colonel, and I've teamed up with retired Army Command Sergeant Major Gregory Coker, and we're here to help veterans. My name's Mark Johnson. I'm a California Superior Court judge, and for the last 8 years I've had the privilege of presiding over the Riverside County Veterans Treatment Court. This is an 18-month program that takes veterans who are on felony probation, puts them through a collaborative court where we get these vets back on track. These are veterans suffering from drug abuse, post-traumatic stress disorder, and a whole host of other issues. And first off, I tell you, I couldn't do anything in that court without retired Army Command Sergeant Major Greg Coker. Greg, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Sergeant Major Gregory Coker, retired. I did 26 years in the military. I currently am a senior mentor for the Riverside Veterans Treatment Court and the CEO for Reaching New Heights Foundation. And I'm really excited to be here to really do these kinds of talks to bring real pertinent information to veterans as well as our community.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Greg Sanchez, the reason this is so cool, Greg Sanchez was actually a probationer in our court. He's now a successful student. He's a junior at UCR, and but he actually came into our court on a felony DUI, causing injuries to others, serious case. And I think that was perhaps one of the lower, obviously it's one of the lower points, but so Greg, you're a student now.
Indeed, I am a student at UC Riverside. I transferred this last winter quarter from Mount San Jacinto College. I'm a history major and currently just kind of making my presence be known around campus, trying to connect with the right individuals, and I'm involved with various clubs already. It's been a joy so far.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, you got this lovely young lady sitting next to you introduced.
Yeah.
This is my wonderful bride-to-be, Misti Childers. And Misti?
I'm a UCR student and I'm majoring in education. And we've been together since 2014.
Welcome.
I'll tell you, the reason, and thank you so much for being here, the reason why, I guess I feel what I've seen on the court, I'm also a retired colonel from the Army, and I see a lot of family members out there. I've talked to, I can't tell you how many wives, husbands, mothers who say, I sent my husband off to war, or my boy went off to war. I don't even recognize him anymore. He came back, he's a different guy, he uses drugs and drinks. And Greg, I know that kind of was your situation. You had a lot of issues, I think, after your military. Tell us about your military service.
Right, so I enlisted shortly after the 9/11 attacks, the World Trade Center and in Pennsylvania. I enlisted into the U.S. Navy in 2002. I went to boot camp, and shortly thereafter completed my respective schooling. I deployed, and I deployed twice. I was a boiler operator and mechanic in the Navy, so I worked down in the what we call the pit of the ship. It's where the boilers are, high pressure, high temperature steam, electrical generators. We desalinate water to make potable water for the ship's crew. The turbines. It's just a loud, screaming environment. Often feels a little bit like solitary confinement, but while it was a stressful, environment to be in. The crew that I got to serve with were just some phenomenal men, and I say men because it was an all-male ship. And us in the pit, we really bonded and we created a nice culture of fraternity, of looking after our own. And of course, what goes along with that is, we may generate steam, but we certainly know how to blow off steam once we left the military, or I should say, knocked off for the day or pulled into a Liberty port. And so, that fraternity kind of, for me, turned into a bit of a culture of drinking. And that's kind of how what I jokingly say now that I'm gone through what I've gone through, is how I started my drinking career.
Okay. No, so you said the bond that you had, a group of guys, and so what kind of a work day? So you'd be down in that pit and for a while, or you said pit, I think you called
Yeah, we call it the pit, the fiery pit of hell. Many of us have referred to it as, and an average day underway. Well, I should start by saying that our day, our time on board begins before the rest of the ship reports for an underway. So at least 24 hours before an underway, the engineers show up. We make ready for underway by lighting off our boilers. We op test all equipment, everything, so that we're just completely ship's capable on our own to be able to take care of ourselves once underway. After that, we get underway, whether it's deployment or just doing drills off San Diego, where I was home ported on board the USS Ogden. It gets hot down there, about 120 degrees on average. The humidity levels are high. As you can imagine, we're generating steam to propel the ship through the water. And our hours are long. Often we were understaffed, undermanned. We worked what's called port and starboard, which means 6 hours on shift, 6 hours off shift. Now I'll let you do the math at home, but we're doing this 7 days a week. There's never a day off while we're underway. Many times we're on long deployments. Ship's company kind of gets a knock off at a reasonable time while we're making our transit. Often there's things called like Steel Beach Picnic, where when we're underway for long periods of time, the ship's allowed we bring out barbecues, and it's kind of like a nice recreational type of day. The engineers, we don't get any of that because the ship is underway. We are a critical component of that ship, and that 6 hours off does not end. And so we lean on each other. Like I mentioned already, it's a fraternity. We're going through the same struggles. We're sleep deprived. We're working in horrendous conditions. When equipment fails, there is no calling up a mechanic or anybody to come fix it. We grab the wrenches and we do it ourselves. Wow. We're a tough, proud bunch down in the pit, and it was an honor to have served with those
kind of a high suck factor. I mean, those are just phrases.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I've heard that kind of a variation to that term. I think I just came up with a new one.
It's fitting.
It sucked, but we were brothers.
Right.
Okay, so you got left active duty about 2007 with an honorable
discharge. Yes.
Okay, now talk about your life maybe over the next 4 or 5 years, how it went.
Right, so right before I got out of the military, I was actually considering re-enlisting, but I threw my resume out to see maybe what kind of hits I would get.
Yeah.
And right away I was pretty heavily recruited to work in the power plant operation industry, immediately. So I had a job lined up in Los Angeles, right after the military. So I moved to LA. I kind of, connected with an old friend of mine from high school. We became roommates. He was already living out in LA. And I started working the power plants and living and working around Hollywood area, actually what's called the Mid-Wilshire District.
Yeah.
And so these were shift positions. So I would work for 12 hours, say 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., or we would dog the watch or shift the watch to where after a few months of that, I would go on to work, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it was always kind of rotating. It's hard to adjust because you never really have a sense of normalcy.
Well,
Particularly
when you were down in that boiler room in the ship, you had your fellow boiler room sailors. I don't know if that's probably not the right
we call
term.
them pit snipes. They're called pit snipes.
Pit snipes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you share that boiler room with other pit snipes.
Right.
Did you have pit snipes once you left the military?
Right. So that particular trade, the boiler operations and the like, they do hire that in the civilian industry. They do hire quite a substantial amount of Navy veterans because we have that government training, we have the experience, and we know what's going on.
You're reliable.
I did work with other Navy guys, but by this point we're back from being in active duty. So everybody has their own families. They're kind of off doing their own things. I did hang out with a couple here and there, some really nice individuals. But then, like I mentioned, when people are civilians and they're having their families, us single guys, we kind of didn't really have that.
Okay, talk about when you started realizing you have a service-connected disability for post-traumatic stress disorder, 100%. I know also you've suffered from depression.
Right.
And did you ever start self-medicating, so to speak?
Yeah, so it's a fuzzy area where it turned from having your common bond or your fraternity of drinking buddies after work or Liberty Ports or just and then coming back into being a civilian where I was kind of going out on the weekends, how some people do, and they're able to knock back a few and kind of relax and unwind. From that, I just kind of it progressed into more of a binge nature, right? So that's just kind of something that I would drink on occasion by myself, and that's kind of when I noticed sort of that paradigm shift of it going from just a social drinking kind of situation to now I'm self-medicating because I'm alone. Like I said, those graveyard shifts. Nobody wants to really, I didn't have a chance to go hang out like what you call like a regular 25-year-old.
Yeah.
I was always just working these dog hours, and I just couldn't adjust. There was a lot of loneliness there, life feeling like it was passing me by. So I kind of, my friend became the bottle.
And I think we've heard that too. With the loneliness seems to be a common core. And then the hours, it seems to be a common core that we've seen when you have these hours alone, loneliness, and those things. And you just mentioned it, the bottle becomes a friend. We've heard that before.
Well, a lot of people, I know because I've dealt with a lot of vets with issues, they want to know, why is this guy drinking? Why is he using methamphetamine? Well, these things work for a while. They actually work. I mean, if you have somebody who's got depression, methamphetamine will lift them right up. The problem is we all know it doesn't. It's no cure in the long run, but they do work temporarily. And sometimes, talk about like from the time till you met. When did you two met? Which year? 2017.
2017.
Okay, up until the time you met Misti. Talk about like that period, how your drinking was during that period and till when you first met Misti.
Of course. So in 2008, as we all know, the economy collapsed, and I was laid off from my job. As a result, and so I moved closer to home, which was at that time in Hemet, right, Hemet, California, and so I was on unemployment, looking for work, trying to just trying to kind of balance, but I couldn't find work. There was I couldn't get hired anywhere. So unemployment ran out, and then I became home insecure. My parents lost everything in the Great Recession.
Wait, tell me, I'm usually pretty up on all home insecure. Does that mean you were without a home?
Correct. I was without a
Where were you
home.
living?
I didn't really have my parents to go and live with because they had lost everything with that Great Depression. My father was laid off, and just a series of events happened to where they were kind of left out in the open. Fortunately for them, and grateful to a coworker of my father, he allowed them to kind of stay in a property that he owned. But I didn't have a place to go, and so a good friend of mine's brother actually opened up his garage. And so this wasn't any kind of manicured garage. It was just a regular garage with gasoline smells and shovels.
Sounds like mine. Okay.
Yeah, a mattress on the floor. So I stayed there while continuing to look for a job. And, I'm very grateful to him. He provided me a roof and just a
What
place
year
to
are we
stay.
up to now about?
This is about 2010.
Okay.
Circa 2010. So I'm staying with him, and I finally then I secure a job. Finally, I get called to work at a power plant in Cabazon, California, and so I save some paychecks and I get my life rebooted. I get going again, right? In the interim, during all this happening, I had some back issues from the military, and and I had herniated discs in my back, and so again I introduced alcohol. So while I'm living in this garage, not only is it just depressing being in a garage and not having anywhere to go or anything to do and no money to do anything, I drank. I scrounged up enough money to find liquor and to help with the pain, but also the depression, and that's really when the combination of those two things. That's when the drinking really took charge. But I held it together. I was functioning. I got a job. I got a job.
Were you at the VA at that time too, with any of that stuff? Was VA?
Yeah. So for my physical issues, I was seeking out the VA because I didn't have private insurance at the time, and I was kind of going to those early stages of trying to get help at the VA. But it was physical. I wasn't ready to let anybody know about what's going on inside of my mind.
Okay.
Too proud to do that. Don't want to do that. But I'm in pain. You know, help me out. Give me some pills. That's my mentality, right? So I get the job, and I save some checks, and I moved to Calamasa, California. And I was living there for some time, working at this job in Cabazon. Same scenario, 12-hour shifts, graveyards,
Okay.
always chasing, always looking for company. I immersed myself with, different types of hobbies I try to get into. But the one thing that was always there for me was the alcohol, and so I would still lean heavily onto that.
Tell us about when we got, like, you met Misti in 2017. How were you at that time, roughly?
Right. So I had, at that point, my parents had sort of recovered, and they were living in their own dwelling. And, this time that I was in Calamasa, I was actually living with an ex-girlfriend. Well, that didn't work out. And so I moved in with my parents, and it's a small place. I was sleeping on the floor there, and I had left the job in Cabazon to go work elsewhere, and I just couldn't really. At this point, I'm really struggling to try to cope with this type of career. This is where I'm becoming increasingly unhappy with the job I was doing, the hours I was missing out on life. Just I couldn't get past it. I actually started working in Temecula doing the same thing when one day I threw in the towel. I was like, I am done with this job. I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And as you can imagine, my parents, everybody is like, wait, what? What are you doing? You can't just stop. And at this point, I'm just like, I'm done. I'm done.
So when you say done with the work, or just done in general life, or just done when you're done, what do you mean?
Well, that's a really good question. I knew I had the GI Bill kind of tucked away, right? And so I had considered maybe I would go back to school, but at this time, the drinking had got to a point where I was doing it kind of secretly, and I was noticing, my physical health kind of, deteriorating. I was very lonely and whatnot, and so I'm living in Hemet, living with my parents. I leave the job, and I'm kind of just floating, to be quite honest with you. But again, I'm still sort of holding it together, really putting on a good facade, not really allowing people to recognize what's happening. And around this time, actually, I remember I met Misti, and she and I started seeing each other.
Where'd you meet each other? Yeah, let's hear it. How did you two meet?
We actually, it's funny. For me, it's funny. We were at Sprouts, and my daughter was there, and we kind of made a mess over in produce picking apples because she wanted an apple off the bottom of the pile there. And, and so it just, yes.
Yeah.
And so then with that, he came over, helped me out with it, and we just kind of chit-chatted, and the next day we went out for a cup of coffee the next morning.
Yeah.
And just kind of chit-chatted, got to know each other a little bit, and just started hanging out more.
What was your impression, over that first period there? Because I think Greg was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. I know he had depression. I'm curious, did you see any of that with him?
At first, there's that facade that you see, that the first impression, and you got to make the good impression, that kind of stuff.
True.
So there was that, but I knew there was something underlying there. I just wasn't sure what it was, but it was so new of a connection, and just trying to figure each other out. So I knew there was something there. I just didn't know what it was.
Like a little quirky or something, or was it sign just a little something off?
Something was off. It's just you're starting to get to know somebody, and you already know. I don't know you 100%. Mm-hmm. It's so brand new, and you think you're getting to know more of them, but there's just that underlying bit, that 2% you just don't know about yet. And what is it? And trying to figure out what that is.
Have you ever had a relationship or had family members in the military?
I did. So both my parents are psych tech nurses, so psychology was a lot of their background.
Yeah.
But I also had uncles that were military. In my previous relationship, my father-in-law at that time was a Vietnam veteran.
Yeah.
My grandfather served in World War II. So I have a lot of
So
military
you-
background, and then my brother's in the Army as well. So it's.
What'd you think of his drinking back then? Did you think? Because a lot of times people will say, "Yeah, I know he drinks a little much. Good guy." But what'd you think about that? Did you?
I knew the potential of the problem there. It's I have a cousin that's PTSD, service connected Army, and so I know what that looks like, and I could see it there.
Okay.
And, new relationship, you just kind of don't want to see it.
What did you see exactly? Could you be more specific as to what you actually saw at Greg that made you think, "Hey, I think this guy may have post-traumatic stress disorder"?
It's you question the trust that you have there because they don't want to open up, and then the communication, standoffish at times, the seclusion. We leave and then we come back, and but it's not relationship related. That's a personal reason that they're leaving. So it's those little signs of depression and separation and that PTSD. And it's if you look at PTSD, it's a lot of that, and it's not for you and your trust issues, but it's if you remove yourself out of it and look at them and their situation, what they're going through, and you remove yourself, you see that it's them that's going through those trust and communication and not acknowledging their own feelings or not wanting to acknowledge those because it's their ghosts.
Yeah.
It's their ghosts, and those ghosts are hidden in a bottle at times, and it's how do you face it?
Did you see him physically drinking a lot, or did you notice, or just thought that? What did you see?
I did, and I'm not a big drinker. I'm a social drinker, so usually it's like Christmas or New Year's, and you have a drink or two or a special event. But outside of that, I don't have alcohol in my house, so it wasn't foreign to me. But you see the drinking, and the more comfortable and the more we got to know each other, the more open he was about being able to drink, and then I could see the drinking, and then just see that progression.
Yeah, I'm just curious. You said he wasn't opening up to you? Did that hurt your feelings?
It did, but it didn't, because I'm smart enough to know that it wasn't personal for me. He wasn't opening up to me because of something I did or wasn't doing. It was he wasn't ready. I think this is what it was, and I could recognize that.
Because I tell you, I've seen this a lot with the women who love male veterans. Maybe it's a son, it's a husband. A lot of the women, I've talked to a lot of mothers, a lot of wives that don't recognize this person when they come back from war, and I just know it's very hard as males. It's hard for us to open up. I'm a little old-fashioned. I don't believe in men should be laying their problems off on women. I know nowadays I'm supposed to, as a male, I'm supposed to be touchy-feely and I'm supposed to tell everybody everything. But my generation, that's what I think. I don't think I'm supposed to burden a lady. I'm supposed to take care of you guys. Did you see any of that in him? He's Latino, kind of old-fashioned guy here, stand-up dude. I bet he's got a lot of that.
I think that's natural for men in general. Whether it's military or not, but definitely more military based, because that's just the way the military trains you. You check that stuff at the door.
I mean, he's a tough guy. Tough guy. He doesn't want to tell a lady, but thanks, Greg, for being such a wonderful sport here as we're talking about you.
Is he here? Are we talking about him?
Okay, so Greg, talk about now from Misti, and you got I don't want to say all these old sexist terms. You got a keeper here, man. You better take care of this lady. Your ring's great too. No, well, let me just say this, folks. I saw Misti weekly in court, always with him there, always there to support Greg. And I knew, because these two came to court together probably 40 times. I knew this guy was going to succeed, but largely because of him, but mainly because of her, because he had the family support. But I know, I know how frustrating it is, but Greg, talk a little more about your what went on from the time you met Misti and till up until the DUI you had in November 3rd, 2018.
Okay, so from about the time that I met Misti through like rock bottom, first I just wanted, even now Misti protects me, but the truth of the matter is, you asked her if she had ever seen or me, kind of acting bizarre, I guess. Well, I hid my drinking. Yes, it was out in the open, but I would have a bottle stashed somewhere in the house, right in the garage or underneath the kitchen sink and the like, and and so I certainly, showed that, and I got weaker. I got weaker because I got sloppier, and
You mean sloppier and not hiding them that well? Or-
Yeah.
After a while.
A lot more evident.
the whole
Yeah.
bit. If I'm to be completely honest, and I think that it is critical for me to be completely honest in all of this if I'm to help anybody. I just need to put it all out there. Even now I'm such an open book with everybody, anywhere, in any space. But my rock bottom kind of just was rapid fire, so to speak. In 2018, I found myself, I was in the hospital about 4 to 6 times. It's a little blurry, but these were conditions that had every bit to do with withdrawals. And it wasn't because I was trying to quit. It was actually just because I would wake up in the middle of the night because my body was demanding the alcohol.
Yeah, that's scary.
So I was going to the hospital either via ambulance or via her driving me. Suffering from delirium tremens. I think there was one called rhabdomyolysis, where essentially my body started eating itself. I wasn't consuming much protein, so my body was eating itself. And even then, at one point, I actually was in the hospital, and I had the urge to go to the restroom and to be to get a little bit personal, but I think it's important. I had the urge to go, but I couldn't go.
Whoa, wow.
So they stuck a catheter
yeah.
down me.
Yeah.
And there's no local anesthesia.
No
It was
anesthesia.
bite your shirt and hold
Ouch.
on. I haven't known, nobody told me that since boot camp with the peanut butter shot. They
Bite your shirt and hold
Hold
on.
on. So I think I lifted the roof off the hospital that day because I screamed. I let it out.
But I did. Let me just say one thing. I actually want to jump in here because withdrawals or something, call 911. Most people are not capable of dealing with someone going with alcohol. Alcohol is horrible withdrawals. It can kill you very easily. So
What's that like? Tell me a little bit about it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, what is it? Yeah.
No withdrawals.
Gosh, the chest pain. I felt like my heart was going to jump out of my chest. I would convince myself of these crazy things like, maybe if I don't go to the restroom, maybe my body needs that hydration. Just this absolutely,
Wow.
loony type of thinking, trying to just convincing myself of this nonsense. And so the anxiety is high.
You tried to quit because you saw the withdrawals, and it was, seeing you in the cold sweats. And
So you were there watching
Yeah.
this.
Oh yeah. And there's a few times, I've called the ambulances to come and take them. I've taken them, but just the physical part of it, grabbing the chest, rubbing the chest all the time. The cold sweats, the not being able to sleep.
why
the
did you stay?
nightmares.
Why did you stay with him? Seriously, I mean, a lot of people would say, I don't know, this guy's got more. He needs more than I can do.
And that's,
I'm glad you did, but I
Yeah.
just want to see why.
From a human perspective, I think it from being the other person, it's so easy to say, I can't do this, and you check out.
Yeah.
And you're discarding somebody, and you're saying they're not worth that time and effort. And
Yeah.
you're worth that time and effort at some point in your life. And the best thing that you can do for a veteran or for somebody that's leaning on the bottle or has PTSD is you are going to have to buckle down and put whatever ill will, feelings, or anger that you have for them aside. because they need your support more
Anger.
than anything.
So you said, you had some anger for him.
You get mad at them because it's, do you don't understand.
Can't you see? Why do you keep drinking? I know it's easy to say.
Yeah, your body's breaking down. They're telling you need to stop.
Killing yourself.
Yeah, and I think the worst one was with the rhabdomyolysis, and that's, your body is so dehydrated and it's starting to eat the muscles, and the doctors are telling you, look, if you go out there and you down another bottle, you're probably not going to survive.
The thing is, a lot of people, they don't understand what alcoholic cravings are, how bad they are. They're not, this isn't like, oh, I think I want a drink. This is like, I'll dig my nails into that wall back there and climb it to get something to drink. That's how bad they are. They're rough. That's why usually if you get to that point, you need professional help. You can't just go to a few AA meetings. You got to have the pros help you.
You definitely need the pros. But that seething grip of alcoholism, it does not discriminate. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, what race, religion you are. It's got you. Once it's got you, it's got you. So the day of the catheter, this is how bad it's got you. The day of the catheter, I'm in the hospital for a few days. I'm hooked up to hoses. They're feeding me intravenously, hydrating me intravenously. And what do? I go home. I say I'm never going to drink again. And then a day later, I'm drinking. After all that, after the catheter, and I keep bringing that up because, geez, God, to the men out there.
I know. I noticed that, Sergeant Major, you've been shifting.
Every time he says
chair, every time the
turn me like
catheter.
this.
I know.
But at this point, it's physiological and psychological.
True.
And not too long after that was November 3rd when I got into that car accident, and that's where that was just the that was rock bottom.
So you were drunk, I would imagine. And then this accident. Tell me a little bit about that. And how it shaped yourself.
I was out of booze and I needed to go get more, so I went to go get more, and I got back, and I think I was already way too far incapacitated, and I rear-ended somebody, and I injured them, and they survived, but even today that weighs heavily on me. Like this one of the driving forces behind my continuance to want to pay my debt to society, because wherever they are, I just want them to know that I am sorry, and gosh, I don't know how, maybe someday you can forgive me, but that was something. That was something. Then I processed. I held in the Hemet police station, and then I'm transported to Southwest, where miraculously she bails me out.
Miraculously.
Hey, now you bailed him out. Should you have bailed him out? I mean, let me just say this. The only thing I would say, and I know this is not conventional for drug courts, but sometimes jail does some good for people.
And it does.
But
And, and when I got that call, it was...
I sound like I was giving you a hard time. I'm not. I'd do it. I would do it too. So
But I contemplated it.
Yeah,
because I knew that. Because it was...
Right.
I knew where he was, and I knew I wasn't going to be... I couldn't help him on my
Right,
own.
right.
And I knew he needed the help. So then you teeter-totter on that, knowing that... Because you got the phone call that he's there. But you don't know... you still got to go, and is he going to get bonded? Is he not going to be able to be bonded? So you've got that time frame where you really got to... You sit back and you look at the whole picture like, wow, we're a year into this relationship. I have a child,
Yeah.
So you were going through, you had a year into a relationship, and how much of that relationship was dealing with stuff like this?
6 months.
Wow.
6 months. And then, 3 months out of that was the hospital visits. And, and it was a lot. And
So you were in.
I was in. But, that night, the night of the phone call, I had that night by myself. My daughter happened to be over at my sister's house staying the weekend. I was concerned about where he was that day to begin with. And, I really struggled with what do I want to do. He needs help.
Yeah.
And the jail system, yeah, it can be helpful, but at the same time, our system
Well,
tends to not help.
well,
To some
yeah,
extent, so
you're
it's hard.
right on. I'm starting to regret that I said that because jail is no substitute for treatment. Now, some
Exactly.
people need lockdown treatment. I'll say that, but jail is no substitute. I have seen it get a few people sober just because it brings on rock bottom a lot quicker. But
Yeah.
so great, you're doing so great now. Now, how did you get from a place where a guy is sitting in jail, Misti's bailing you out of jail, you heard a couple people, to the point now where you're now working with TED Talks and you're serving as like a liaison for veterans on University of California, Riverside, and you've been sober a couple years now. How did you get there?
Well, my very, very good friend, he's actually a public defender in San Bernardino, and when I got out of jail, I gave him a call and I let him know what was going on, and he said, hey, listen, Greg, listen to me really closely. There's something called Veterans Treatment Court, right? And this is what you need to do to make sure that you speak with whoever your attorney is going to be. So that's what started my kind of moving around into getting some help. At this point, I'm a few days removed from alcohol, so albeit I am kind of I have a cloudy thought process. I'm thinking. And so, but I should preface real quick by saying, back in January of 18, now the DUI was in November of 18. In January, finally, after years of friends and family telling me that, hey, Greg, you should get checked out by the VA. You should probably see about, putting in a claim for disability. You should get some mental health treatment. There's all these kind of things available to you. Well, pride being what it is, I never saw any gross combat. I have my limbs. My brothers and sisters other veterans need that more than I do. I don't need that. I'll be fine. I'll stifle my emotions and I'll be fine. But in January of 18, I finally said, okay, I'll throw my application in there, or I'll put it in a claim and see what happens. Yeah. A few days after I get out of jail, I'm wondering how I'm going to pay for a private attorney, because I thought that's probably what I should do, and tell them about Veterans Treatment Court program. But I checked my bank account, and there's a back payment in there. The paperwork went through while I was in jail, giving me my disability rating. So now I have money for a private attorney.
Okay.
My friend gets me in touch. My lawyer friend gets me in touch with somebody in Northern California that works with courts, that does psychological evaluations on people. So I meet with her and I ask her. She screens me, and then she actually, I ask her, hey, do you know of a lawyer that has any down here in Southern California that has experience with Veterans Treatment Court? Oh, as a matter of fact, I do. So I get connected with her, and then we start rolling through that process. I go to be indicted and the like, and that kind of started the whole process. My case was moved from Banning to Veterans Treatment Court in Riverside County, where the scram goes on my ankle, and at that point, just right away, I knew I was in deep shit.
Let me just say, SCRAM is Secure Continuous Remote Alcohol Monitoring. It's an ankle bracelet, but it picks up on sweat and alcohol, and they're very effective. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And that is a taxing experience in and of itself. So right away the ball gets rolling. I know I'm in deep shit, and so it's like, okay, this is your rock bottom, Greg. I don't know what happened. There's probably a psychological term for it. Probably some sort of PTSD, like some sort of rock bottom, tragic momentum forward into something that propels you into getting better.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. Maybe it's just existential. I don't know, but I knew that I needed to take this very, very seriously, or I was going to go to prison for a long period of time. So I got with it. I went to Veterans Treatment Court, You had assigned Riverside Behavioral Health to screen me. The VA came around and screened me again. Probation screened me. It seemed that I was a fit. I was a good candidate for the program, and I was entered in the program. And then that's when the real work began. And that was, that involved all hands. My parents, they were an integral part of it. Misti was an integral part of it. And those days were long, and they were every day. Every day.
And it's pretty interesting because as I remember you in the program, you were one of those guys that I always said, "Hey, well done." And I didn't see you have a lot of bumps in the road. It seems like you figured this out, and you just did like this at all. So you said it was a lot of work, but when I'm looking at it, I'm like, that guy figured it out.
Did you have any bumps in the road? I don't know.
For us.
Well, we use bumps in the road a little differently.
Okay.
Violating the program.
That's
I'm sure
what we
this
do.
was a colossal struggle for you. I'm sure there were a lot of bumps, but I tell you what, they never came
We
into
never
the
seen
courtroom.
it, not in the
Yeah.
courtroom, but you figured that out.
Yeah.
So, what was your struggles? What do you mean?
Yeah,
when you said
what-
that?
Well, the goal was not to allow you to see any of the struggle.
Yeah,
It was supposed to go seamless.
Seamless, that's
And
right.
but the days were long. Every day, Monday through Friday, I would call in the morning at 7 in the morning. Well, we should back up here. We would start our days early. 6 a.m. we're out the door. She drops me off at Mount San Jacinto College. This is when I went back to college. Right when this happened, it was either you need to have gainful employment or be in school. No, I'm not going to go try to be a power plant operator again. That industry will never be an industry. Maybe things will change going forward. I don't know. But at the time, I knew that industry is not going to be kind of, catering to a veterans treatment program where you're demanded to do so many things.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I went back to school. Wanted to do a different job anyhow. And so she would drop me off at 6 in the morning at Starbucks right next to MSJC in San Jacinto. And on her way to work. And she would drop me off, and I would hit the books straight away early in the morning until the library opened at MSJC. A couple hours later, then I would go over there, and I would just spend all day there. But at around 7 in the morning, probation updates their telephone line to let you know if your color has been called to go do a urinalysis. Now in those days, we had to move everything around.
That's the twist.
This is yes. She's at work. And this is where my parents really stepped in and stepped up to help me out, and they've helped me out so much my entire life. They are just amazing individual people. But so my dad or somebody would come pick me up because I can't drive. I got a suspended license, right? So I'm over there calling out my dad. Hey, can you come help me out? Take me to do my urinalysis. So at that time, this was probably the toughest part for us. For the first good half of my time in the program, I was required to go to Murrieta to do the urinalysis. Now I was in school at San Jacinto. Now without a car or the capability of driving or the ability to drive, it would have been damn hard to get all the way to Murrieta to go to probation to do the urinalysis and then make it all the way back.
Yeah.
The moment the pandemic kind of crashed down, then it was okay for me to use the probation office in San Jacinto. Somehow things got moved around. Officer Valdez was back, and so it was arranged to where I could go to San Jacinto, which helped us out tremendously.
Yes. What type of alcohol treatment program did you go through with Veterans Court?
Okay, that's a good question. I went to MFI,
Okay.
which is their local, right by my campus, right? So I had that going there. Thankfully, the court allowed that to be because I'd imagine that because the VA is so heavily involved, it could be a requirement that no, you have to go to VA. But that's in Loma Linda.
MFI is a county-run organization, but they have a very good intensive outpatient program. It's really good. I'll be honest, when you describe the level of your problem, I'm surprised I didn't order something residential. Seriously, but you always use the least restrictive treatment type. But I'm just surprised that you didn't end up like in a residential treatment program, because anytime you start hearing people having withdrawals, that usually, to me, it means residential. But good. So MFI, I don't want to use simple terms like, it worked. You're cured, Greg. No, you're not cured. You're just kind of, you've got a disease that's in remission, but I bet it's going to be in the remission the rest of your life.
Oh, it's a campaign to hold on to this, this sobriety. Sure. It is not something that just goes away or I'm good now. I have my own, because of treatment, I was shown or better equipped or turned on to techniques to help to deal with these kind of things, particularly going out to restaurants or having friends over and not making them feel uncomfortable by saying, hey, no booze. Because anyway, that's for a different conversation, or maybe we can get to that later in this. But but MFI, this is a period of time now where we have two lives, in that for the first half of the day, with the exception of calling probation about the urinalysis, I'm a full-time student. Like I'm all cylinders firing. I am, just digging deep and trying to be the best student I possibly can. In the evening times, when I left campus, it wasn't going home to have dinner. It was going to treatment. Yeah. So now in the evening time, I'm going to MFI. On the weekends, I'm going to AA meetings. Right? Too.
I love it. I love hearing it. That's good. I will tell you, boredom is the biggest trigger for a lot of people. Having a lot of free time. I'm glad we kept you.
No free time.
I'm glad we kept you busy, Greg.
That might be a clue. No free time.
Okay.
No, it was.
They started at 6 a.m. and often didn't end till 9 or 10 when we were done with MFI because school, work, then urinalysis, then MFI, then AA, and then you get home and. You can unload for maybe 30 minutes, then you gotta go to bed because you're back up at 5 a.m. and here we go again.
Okay, Greg, tell me at what point, you were at rock bottom, but was there some point in the 18-month Veterans Court program where you started to get a feeling like, hey, I think I can get better? Or was it gradual? I don't know.
No, it was early on. To be honest with you, there was a couple of people, and I owe them a great deal of credit enough to name their names, and they have their own podcasts. One of them, his name is Jocko Willink, and the other is David Goggins, which are a couple of stand-up leaders out in our country and in the world. And I buried myself in their podcast, and I listened with an open mind and an open heart. And one of the things that stood out from both of those men were discipline and also having a calloused mind. And so right away, I kind of just fell back into the military mindset where I was like, okay, I can do this, and I need to check all ego at the door and submit to the process. And it was in that moment where it was like, okay, we're going to hit all the marks. You're going to be you need to go to school? Okay, great. You're not just going to go to school. You're going to be the best damn student that you've ever been in your life. You need to go to treatment? Okay, great. We're going to take notes at treatment. Okay, we're going to go ahead and just make sure that we're not wasting anybody's time. We're going to submit to the process, and we're going to take this very seriously because this is life and death. And the whole cavalry is here to help.
It is life and death.
Let's do this.
Misti, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
Two things. One is when you showed up in court, you were like, going to an event. You were always look professional. You looked like you took time to go here, and this meant something. So when you stood up there, not that anybody who doesn't take the time, you look like you were somebody. You look like
you always came in a suit and tie, didn't you?
Yes,
that tells me a lot. I will tell you. Yeah, and Misti was always with you.
Yeah, it was like.
And you guys were always professional. You took the program should be taken. I mean, one of the rules I do require pants and a collared shirt. Sometimes you have to tell veterans that. These guys that want to show up in shorts and stuff like that. I think it's we want to get these vets ready to go out in the world. Showing up in a pair of flip-flops, well, I don't allow that, but that isn't doing any of that. Okay, so Misti, how about you? Did you see a point where you're saying, God, this guy is going to make it? I think he's going to stay.
Point too.
Yeah, well, both. The worst point was right before the accident, in the accident. That was the worst.
Yeah.
The worst of it. And you talked about getting treatment before that, and we looked at a few things with that. But the make it part where, yeah, he's going to make it, he's going to come out of this, was, honestly, I think we had that conversation the first time we got home from being in your courtroom.
Yeah.
And that was, look, this is our life. And it's, can I do this? It's not just can I do this. I have to do this. I have to do this for me. I have to do this for my future wife, for my future daughter. I have to do this, and this is business, and this is me fixing who I am, and I think that's the approach he took with it, and that's the conversation we had that night, and it's okay, we do this, and you get that help, and you do not turn back, and you have to be completely open.
Well, like I said, you ran there's no such thing as a flawless program, but in terms of coming to court, doing the requirements, it was a flawless program. I mean, Greg, right now we've got veterans, probably a vet sitting out, well, I hope there is, sitting around drunk, probably doesn't know how he's going to stop drinking. Do you have words of wisdom for some of these veterans that may be out suffering?
When you're in those lonely moments, you might be sitting on that couch, nursing on a bottle. Please just know that there are people, and there is a VA, and there are individuals out there that are your best allies, that want you to get better. It's a scary place to be when you're feeling alone and left out. But gosh darn it, you owe it to yourself. You've accomplished so much in your life. You once signed that check to sacrifice your life if needed for this country. And that makes you just a hero in and of itself. You're not alone. Accept the help. Check your ego at the door. You are a tough guy, tough woman. So be tough and accept the help. Please. I'm here for you.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah, that is the truth. Misti, how about you? You would, like, with the family members out there that have someone they love that needs help. They got PTSD, they're drinking, just, the whole thing. What would you say to those people?
I would say to them, don't give up on them. And as much as they may push you away, that's when they need you most. And as much as it may hurt you, know that if you're there to support them and you guide them and help them find the help that they need, or help them come to the realization that they can make it. But if you give up on them, they won't make it. And you've got to be able to separate your personal emotion from it, and know that if you support them and let them know that you're there, if nothing else, let them know that you're there.
Yeah.
And when they're ready, they'll come to you, because you've told them 100 times, 1,000 times, I'm here. If you need an ear, I'm here. If you just want to vent, I'm here. And it's making sure you've got that open communication, and that they can trust you.
Yeah.
And that you'll always be there to support them, and that you won't give up on them. When they're ready, they'll come to you. And you go from there.
When are you guys getting married?
Well,
Yeah.
spring of 22, I do believe.
Okay.
Right?
You should be married now, other than for COVID.
Yeah, COVID kind of postponed things a couple of times for us, but
We certainly want to get the invite, and we just certainly
I was
appreciate
gonna
this is a great success
request
story.
for an invite on a podcast that
Well, there
goes
you go.
out.
You got it. It's
Okay.
But, I mean,
But
great story. Great story.
well, you guys here, Misti, I know I already gave you a coin in court. One time I tried to give you a second, and you gave it to another. But for coming on, you're the one who. I got to give you another one. You can give it to your daughter. But thank you, young lady. Thanks for everything you did for one of our veterans. I'm grateful. And Greg, brother, well done. Yeah, good job. You're doing well. This guy's a student. He's doing great. This guy's a success story. This is what we want to see coming from our courts. And we'll see with all of our veterans. So, I hope you liked it. We're doing our best. If you got some topics you want to hear, please shoot us an email and subscribe. We'll just keep doing it. Sergeant Major.
Okay, I wanted to say thank you, Greg, and thank you, Misty, for coming on. And I know that your message is going to resonate with some and help people out there who may be struggling and showing them that they can do it and it can change and it can be great. And I know it's a journey. And thank you again.
Yes.
Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Misty.
it. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for watching. Hopefully this was very helpful to you and we share some information that may answer some questions for you. Follow us on social media. Make sure you subscribe and leave a comment below if you have any questions or any thoughts. Reaching New Heights Foundation was happy to bring this to you and supporting Veterans Program. Thank you and have a good day.